guys, welcome back to number 2 with George Bennett. Man, I know you enjoyed that first one and you've been looking forward to another show coming up. But here he goes, and man, I just can't imagine it getting any better, but I know good and well it will, because man, this dude, he knows it all. All right, George, tell us something good.
Well, the worst thing about it is you didn't take me to lunch today.
Oh,
I mean, you didn't take us to lunch. You took us to a good place last week, but you didn't take us anywhere today. So, I mean, I don't know whether I want to go on this show or not.
But I tell you what, when we get finished with the show, I'll take you to over to Arden's
Okay.
and get you an egg roll. How about
Okay, that'd be great.
Awesome.
All right. After I graduated from Clemson in 1955, and back in those days, all of us had to go in the Army. And I went in the Army and spent 2 years at Fort Knox. And I was single at the time, and I had a great career there.
Yeah.
My first job is I was a company motor officer. They found the least mechanically inclined person they could find and said, "Hey, you the motor officer." But the best thing about it, I had a sergeant first class. It was just unbelievable. And I took care of him, and taking care of him meant that I had to buy him a pint of Jack Daniels every Saturday at 12 o'clock. And I never missed it. And then after I'd been in there about 4 months, I heard that the honor guard platoon commander was leaving. So I hightailed it up to the chief of staff, and I said, "Sir, I believe I'd like to have that job." He said, "Well, what makes you think you're qualified?" I said, "Well, I went to military school and I was in the Persian Rifles and some things like that, and I think I'm qualified." He said, "I'm gonna give you a chance." So I started out as the commander of the honor guard platoon at Fort Knox, and that was really a great job. Met a lot of Clemson people in the Army during that time.
Yeah.
And so anyway, well, I met a lot of people and all this, and that's another story we can go into another time. But anyway, then I got out in 1957 and went to work with Esso, which is now Exxon, and spent 9.5 years with Exxon all over Southeast, Columbia, Charlotte, Hickory, where I met Nancy, back to Charlotte, Durham, Raleigh, and then Tampa, Florida. And in 1967, the alumni office was looking for a new field representative, so I applied for that job and got it. So we came back to Clemson in 1967, and I was the very first alumni field representative. And so I was going around meeting people and talking about Clemson and all these kind of things. And I got to know a lot of Clemson people and the field and all that. And then Coach Howard retired in 1979, and Hootie Ingram came in. But first of all, let me tell you a couple stories about Coach Howard.
All right.
Coach Howard, Nancy and I'd go by and pick him up before we go to meeting. Now you got to understand, before we got them, all the meetings that were held at Clemson were stag meetings.
Which
no
means what?
females at all. All stag meetings.
Yeah.
So anyway, Coach Howard, he was in his element, you know.
Yeah.
He'd tell these stories and all this kind of stuff. So Nancy and I'd go by and pick up Coach Howard, and he'd look back and he'd see Nancy in the car, and he'd start shuffling through his jokes and all like that. And he said, "Well, this one won't do. This one won't do." But he always left a couple in there that she should have taken out, you know. So we had a great time with Coach Howard, going all around the state and all this kind of stuff. And we told him one day, said, "Coach, if you really want to start raising some money, you got to understand that the women control the pocketbooks. So you got to start having women that come to some of these meetings." "Well, you're thinking of doing it good. Go ahead and do it, you know." So anyway, I wasn't in IPTAY at that time. I was still in the alumni office. So we started forming these little Clemson clubs and things like that around. And so the ladies started coming to the meetings. Well, he retired in 1979 from Clemson, and Hootie Ingram came in and took his place.
Yeah.
Well, Hootie had come in had a great background. He'd played at Alabama, coached at Arkansas, coached at VPI, and had a great career and was really full of ideas. Yeah. And he said, "There's nothing wrong at Clemson. We just got to have a little pizzazz to put into the program." Yeah. So Dr. Edwards told us, said, "Go over to Henderson Advertising Agency in Greenville and see if they can help you out." Well, he came over here and they sat and talking, and they started talking about ideas and all that. And one of the guys who was an illustrator, a guy by the name of John Antonio, came up with the idea, said, let's get a print of a tiger's paw and use that as our athletic logo.
Yeah.
Well, nobody was really sold on that idea until they put it on a helmet, like up there in your room. And when they put that tiger paw on that helmet, then everybody was sold on the idea.
Yeah.
So the tiger paw started on July the 21st, 1970 is when the tiger paw was selected as our athletic logo. Okay. And at that time, all we did was just try to get people to use it.
Yeah.
Because we wanted to get out. We didn't have it marked, licensed, or anything like that. Now, based on marketing research, it is the most recognizable athletic logo in the country.
Yeah. So what was our logo before then?
We had a tiger, that tiger there, something like that.
Yeah.
This was really iconic here because that particular tiger was very popular in the Gator Bowl of 1948. Oh. That's when it really came into being.
Oh, cool. All right, that sounds good. All right, so Antonio, as a matter of fact, I think I got some stuff in this room where he signed it and autographed it. But yeah, that tiger paw now, you don't want to use that and make something yourself with that tiger paw on it.
No, it's all licensed and all.
Yep.
So, and we do get some revenue from it now. So
yep.